Hi and welcome. This time around I have some interesting tools to show. And first up we have a tool from an industry that provides more than just one tool to machinists, the dental industry. Taking a closer look, the dentist actually gave me this. It's called a Proxa brush. It's from Butler, and I don't know if you can read that on there. Let's see, I'll try and get the angle right. I can't tell what you can see because the viewfinder is too small. But it's replaceable brushes designed to clean your gums, but it's great for getting in small holes and cleaning chips out or other debris out of. To replace the brush part on the end, you just pop this guy open, stick a new brush in here, bend it down, and lock it in place. They come in different sizes. Here's a larger brush than the one that's in here. I don't know how well you can see that. They're pretty small. But the beauty is they fit in tight spots. So handy. Time will tell how useful it is. And since I didn't buy it, I'm not sure how much they cost or even where to get it, but I would guess Amazon. Anyways, I'll let you know more as I use it more. Next up is a tool that is not in front of you right now, but is best demonstrated by showing the differences between various types. So this is a Phillips screwdriver, the inexpensive 6-in-1 screwdriver, you know, reversible here, nut driver there, different size nut driver on this side, reversible on this side. Nothing there. Some of them have something here. This one does not. In any case, you're probably used to this when it's not magnetized. The screw will just fall out. Actually holds on this one okay. This is a pretty well-made Phillips screw here. This is an X-Lite, and this one also holds this one very nicely. Doesn't hold this stainless screw, however, particularly well. And this hose on here, which I believe is part of Vessel, the company. This screwdriver is pretty fantastic. It's a Japanese screwdriver, and it holds, without being magnetized, this screw extremely well. Most Phillips, in fact, it's actually tight to get off. It kind of clicks when it's coming off. It'll even hold this one really well. And that's the difference between screwdriver bits. So why did I bring this up? Because screwdrivers you can find anywhere. These are actually available on Amazon, and they're also now available, totally drawn a blank, Eastwood Tools, I think it is, something like that, sells them. What I was actually bringing up is I found this set of impact bits from Vessel, the same maker as this screwdriver. And the beauty of these is they also will hold the screws extremely well. And I know there's a slight variation difference between Japanese Phillips and American Phillips. This is a standard number 2. Oh, interestingly enough, this one's not that tight. I hadn't tried these yet. Actually, it's not tight on any of those. Well, that's interesting. Maybe that's because these are hardened. These are Rockwell 62, and they're again made by Vessel, and they're designed to be used with impact tools. So this little ball supposedly allows the torque to twist on either side of it to absorb some of the impact so it doesn't damage the bits. These are supposed to be really high quality bits. Interestingly enough, they don't hold the Phillips at all. I will say I'm a little disappointed that it doesn't fit as tightly, but that may be by design. Perhaps for impact, if they were designed to fit the screw as tightly as the hose-on ones, it would get stuck in the Phillips bit and not Phillips head of the screw and not be able to come out. I don't know if that's the case or not. I'm kind of curious. However, this style is magnetic, so let's see if it transfers. So that will transfer the magnetic field, but not particularly well, because these are stainless screws, so it's not going to help anyways. So magnet won't work. So even though this is a magnet type with a magnet stuck in the base, that's not going to help this guy right here. So I'm a little disappointed because I did buy these for that feature because I know how well the Vessel bits fit, but I guess they were shooting for something else for these impact. They're extremely high hardness. They come in a wide range of sizes. This was not an inexpensive set because it comes from Japan. It's not made in China. This was $32.95. You can check my Amazon site for it. I have a link to all the tools I buy if you're interested, just so you can find them. So it's got a wide range of Allens and Torx and square drive, and some posi drives, which are interesting. I don't run across posi drive screws very often. That's got an additional little slot, if you can see it right there, down in between where a normal Phillips would have just an empty space. Like right here, there's another little groove that sticks up, grabs better. Don't really use them. Haven't run across very many of them in my career, but anyways, this is a set. Again, a little disappointed. It's nice they put on each bit what its size is. Like this is Phillips number 1, Phillips number 2, Phillips number 3, and the posies. Anyways, it's a nice little set. I don't know if the bits don't wear out, you know, under a lot of impact use, then that'll be a great sign, because, you know, they do sell inexpensive Phillips bits in number 2, like in 20 packs for when you're driving screws all day, because screws are hardened and it destroys the Phillips bits. So something to look for. Anyways, I'm adding this to my arsenal, and I'll let you know as I use them more how much I like them. Again, I'm a little disappointed they don't fit like this guy, but maybe that's by design, or maybe that's just an unfortunate side effect. Next up, as long as we're on the vein of screwdrivers here, is a Wera set, and it is a set of torque drivers for the standard 1/4 inch bits, including those other ones I have down there. And this particular kit comes with 3 Torx drivers, and each one supports a range of torques. So this one is 1.2 to 3.0 Newton meters. This one is 0.3 to 1.2 Newton meters, and this one is the big one, 3 to 6 Newton meters. Each one of these screwdrivers, torque drivers, come with a locking head that'll eject the bits for you, which is nice for the magnetic ones, because when these guys seat, you really can't pull them out. So this has got an ejector built in, which is really handy. To adjust the torque, you pull this guy down and then just twist, and you'll see on the shaft it's got a little marking for the torque. And if it's really important, you would take this to a torque setting calibrator and calibrate this before you use it. Let's see if I can, there you go. So that's set currently on 0.2 Newton meters, and you can hear it when it reaches the torque yield point. And that's pretty much it. Nice set, pretty darn expensive. I lucked out and I found this set on eBay inexpensively. Relatively speaking, it was a couple $100, like $100 off, which is a really great find. So now you're asking, well, why would I want a small set of torque drivers to begin with? Let me show you. So I picked this up because when I got this ISCAR face mill, I noticed that they wanted you to torque all the inserts to a certain value, and now you can just pop this guy in with the appropriate Torx bit and tighten each one until they are torqued to the exact same value, which gives you repeatability, which is a good thing. Any decent manufacturer of these, even including the cheap ones like Schar's or less expensive ones like Schar's, will tell you the torque values for the screws holding their inserts in place. The same goes for lathe turning tooling like boring bars, or even trepanning tools like this one. This one is inexpensive, so they didn't give the torque specifications, but if you bought a good brand like Kennametal or Sandvik or one of the other high-end ones, they will give you torque values for the inserts. I'm sure if I looked up this Kyocera on their site, there would be a torque value for this, because they want to know that it's not too tight, but it's tight enough. And those values are calculated at the factory by the engineers who design the products. If you want to do repeatable work, you need to torque your parts down to a known torque value. Same with vices. Next up is a set of Mayhew Pro gasket cutters. These ones are made in France. There are lots of inexpensive ones made in China. I had a set of them and they were not very high quality. These are significantly better made. The tool steel is hardened and very sharp. You can tell they were ground. I got this to cut gaskets and O-rings. You can choose one size for your outside and another size for your inside, and cut a specific gasket that way. It doesn't help you line it up exactly, but I mean, you can't really put 2 of them on at the same time if they're in the same size range. So like this one would fit on, but you couldn't put another one from that size range on there if you wanted a very small O-ring. But if you did, I guess, want to put in a bigger one, that would fit, and you could probably punch them simultaneously and get a ring this way. Or you could even put one of the smaller ones that thread into the center at the same time. Like I said, there are lots of inexpensive Chinese sets, and if you're not going to do O-rings very often, it might pay to get that. I picked this up because I've ended up cutting round holes, fairly large ones, in things a bunch of different times, and I didn't have the tools to do it. So this is going to let me do that. The next size down holes, I have historically shown this. This is a rip-off set. This is a clone set from China, and you can probably get that based on how well these things are staying in place. This is a punch, a hand punch, and it's a copy of an American-made one that you can still find really good prices on. It's not a bad copy. It's pretty reasonably made. The dies and they line up okay, not perfect. You might get that in the actual one, but that's for the next size down. And then I have, for soft materials, used a leather punch in the past. That only does fairly small holes, but it does a decent job. So those are options. I got this to add to my arsenal because I've needed bigger holes. Sets go even larger than this. This set, unfortunately, is kind of expensive. It was $100 and something, as I recall. Again, I'll have a link on my Amazon page that I'll put below, and you can look and see for yourself. Speaking of cutting O-rings out and gaskets out, a little while ago I had a project, you might have seen on my channel, where I was making a vacuum test fixture for the laser welding people I do some work for. And I was trying to order some of this silicone foam gasketing material, and it comes in all different durometers, but I didn't really have any sense of what that actually was. So I had to end up buying a range because I had no way really to know what I was getting. I didn't have a reference for it. And I noticed on the McMaster site they had two kits. This one, polyurethane hardness, and it comes, each hardness is a different color, easy to find, from very hard to very soft, very rubbery. This one feels not rubbery at all. Feels like it would almost break. Anyways, this was inexpensive and very handy to have. They also had a different durometer range in sorbothane, which is absorptive material, all the way from 30 up to 70. 70, which is fairly thick, down to 30, which your fingers just sink into. It feels like if you squeeze, your fingerprint would stick. This one, definitely not. And a range. So these are pretty handy. You might want to pick yourself up a set on McMaster Car if you're likely to get rubber products in the future. So I know I've shown these guys before. These are Hogan Rotacut for sheet metal. Really interesting geometry on the rotary broach, the Hogan annular cutters. I found this set of cutters on eBay for a very good price, and they're weird sizes. So these are normal sizes or whole US sizes, like 3/4 of an inch, 5/8 of an inch, 9/16. These are all 1/32 under that. They don't have that same really interesting geometry that a lot of the annular cutters have. Even the clone ones, like this one's made in China, has a very interesting geometry on the cutter. These are a much more simplified geometry, but in a pinch they could be really handy, and they're just undersized. So this is 29/32. This one is 27/32. So they're all 1/32 under a whole size. I thought they'd be really handy to have. This set's for sheet metal. This set looks like it could go in a bit thicker material. So I picked them up. They were fairly inexpensive. However, I am going to have to make an arbor for this. This arbor is going to be 5/16 24 threads. So I'll need to do that at some point to use these, because interestingly enough, this arbor is a different thread. Very close, but different thread. Give you a nice close-up look of this set. They are high-speed steel and seemingly very high quality. And they've got here for a spanner to tighten them on the arbor and be able to get them off again. Last but not least, I've been using this Morse Taper 4 unknown manufacturer Chinese hand tightening chuck on my lathe for a long time. Oh, it's actually Precision Matthews. Oh, it's not an unknown brand. So Precision Matthews is actually pretty decent stuff. It's worked pretty well, but this one goes fairly small. The jaws line up reasonably, but not perfectly. There's a little bit of gap between them, so I don't know what the run out is on this. I saw a deal on this guy made by, made for Schar's Tools on eBay, so I picked it up. Let's open it and take a look. Schar's is really up their packaging game. I've been using Schar's for over 5 years now, and the early days a lot of stuff arrived in really poor shape. They're doing a much better job now, so a decent box with double padded bag for delivery. So here's this guy, made in Taiwan, the Tagara. It's a Morse Taper 4 5/8 inch. Doesn't go all the way down like the other one. Goes to an 1/8 inch. This one goes almost all the way closed. It hasn't bell mouthed at all, which is a good sign. This one has titanium nitride coated jaws on it. And when you're looking at the jaws, the important thing to have a really low run out is that the threading mechanism that controls these jaws all moving in together has to be accurately ground. If one jaw goes more than the other, then it'll go in further than the others and you'll be off center. So it has to be a precision ground tool in order to guarantee the run out that they're talking about, and I think we should test that. It comes with a wrench so you can tighten it down, which also probably would work on this guy. Yeah, it does. These are very handy to have when hand tightening is not enough. One thing that's unfortunate about these less expensive ones, say versus an Albrecht, would be that you probably can't buy a replacement jaw kit like you could for the Albrecht, which would be nice because why throw out the whole thing? I gotta say, the shaft is very nicely ground on this guy. So I cleaned the jaws on this chuck. This is the Precision Matthews chuck. And this is a carbide blank. I put in here precision ground. And we're going to get an indicator on this. We're just going to see what the run out is right at the jaws. So the Precision Matthews has about 7/10 of a thousandths run out, maybe 8/10 with this half a thousandth indicator here. Looking at the Morse taper, and it is ground so nicely that this indicator doesn't move at all. It looks like maybe 1/10, maybe less than that. So that's pretty awesome. Now let's take a look at the chuck itself. Incidentally, the manufacturer says that this chuck must be tightened with the wrench, which I did not, so I'm going to do that just now. So the run out is actually very poor, much worse than the Precision Matthews. I'm kind of disappointed by that. That is almost 3 thousandths. That's 2.5 thousandths run out, not quite. Yeah, that's 2.5 thousandths. That's very disappointing. I'm going to try and clean the jaws a little bit better and see if there's maybe a burr on them. Because I think they claim 2 thousandths run out max. But I expected it to be better than the Precision Matthews, made in Taiwan and all. But I'm not sure that it's going to be. So I opened the jaws, took a stone, cleaned the inside of the jaws out, then took a Q-tip, cleaned them very well with isopropyl alcohol. And there must have been a burr on the jaws, because now we're down to about 1.5 thousandths. So that improved it about 1 thousandth. I reloaded the Precision Matthews chuck in and tried it again. And now it's 2.7 thousandths. I've played with it and I cannot get it to do better. So I got really lucky the first time, or there's some bit of dirt that I can't find. I tried cleaning it multiple times and can't see anything in there, but I can't get better than that now. So maybe I shouldn't be so hard on the Schar's one, because the Precision Matthews isn't doing any better now. Boy, it's they're kind of fiddly. Interesting to note. One last thing, still remember that the price of both of these is about 1/5 of what an Albrecht would cost. On the negative side, I don't think I could find jaw replacement kits for these, even though they do disassemble, but I don't think I can get kits to replace jaws, so when they wear out, they're just done. Next up, Harbor Freight carries these cotton swab assortments, and what's nice about them is they've got some really large swabs, so if you want to get a lot of solvent in there, or cleaning stuff, or even oil, they work pretty well, and they're pretty decent quality. If you scrub with them, the fibers will come off, but that's probably to be expected. So check that out. Harbor Freight carries these. Next up, we have a cool tool made from a company called Atlas Machine Solutions LLC. I'm guessing they're a pretty small company. They sell on eBay. This comes in several sizes. This is a precision adjustable parallel block, AP65. And it's very similar to that project, that group project I was involved in, where we made those adjustable parallels for Max down in Swan Valley Machine Shop in Australia. And it is an adjustable parallel designed to help support things in your Kurt vise. So I picked the size that supports my 6-inch Kurt vise, ADEZ. It's kind of cool. And it has a decent range. So there's the bottom all the way to the top. So you've got, I guess I could measure this here. So you've got 1.67 inches up to 2.158. That's a decent range, and I think somewhere in there is the bottom of the Kurt vise, maybe around 2 inches. So it'll support things in your Kurt vise. Unlike the Max one, it doesn't have an extension block, so you could raise it higher. So if you've got things in parallel, that would be a nice item, a nice addition to have to it. I would someday like to have one, you know, very similar to the one we made Max, because that was a really cool tool, but I haven't had the time to make one. So perhaps in the future. Oh, for the metric people out there, that is 44.88 millimeters to 55.13 millimeters. Cool tool, cool find. These are some interesting items I've got here. Hope you found them interesting. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time.